Welcome to episode 14. Today, we will be covering the Paddy Moriarty case. And this is District Dark. In the Australian Outback, there are places where a person can disappear in a way that feels almost final the moment it happens. Larrimah is one of those places. It sits on the Stewart Highway in the Northern Territory, about 158 kilometers south of Katherine. In 2007, it had only about a dozen residents. There was no mobile phone reception. The nearest services were 76 kilometers away in Mataranka. It was the kind of town where everyone knew each other, everyone knew each other's business, and every argument had time to grow. On the evening of 16 of December 2017, 70-year-old Patrick Joseph Moriarty, known as Paddy, left the Pink Panther Hotel on his red Honda quad bike. His dog Kellie rode with him. A tourist had given him leftover barbecue chicken for the dog. Paddy said he would take it home. He told the pub owner he would be back the next day to borrow the lawnmower. Then he rode the short distance toward his place. That was the last confirmed sighting of him. He never came back. Not the next day, not the day after. He missed his usual drinks. He missed the mower. He missed the normal rhythm of his own life. When friends checked his home, some things looked ordinary and some things looked wrong. His wallet was there, his cap was there, the chicken was still in the microwave. Dog food was in the bowl, his own food was out, as if he had been getting ready for dinner. But Paddy and Kellie, they were gone. Searchers covered roads, the bush, the bunkers, and the ground around town. They found nothing. No body, no dog, no clothes, no blood trail. No sign that he had simply collapsed while walking. Tonight's case is a disappearance, but it is also a story about a tiny town, old grudges, and what happens when an old man goes missing in a place where the number of possible witnesses is small, but the number of hard answers is even smaller. Paddy Moriarty was not a tourist passing through. He was part of Larrimah. He worked at the pub, he drank every day, he sat in the same chair near the entrance. People expected to see him. When he did not return the next day, that mattered right away. Patrick Joseph Moriarty was born in Limerick, Ireland on 30 March 1947. The coroner recorded that his mother was Mary Moriarty and his father was not listed on the birth certificate. He came to Australia when he was 18 years old. After arriving, he worked on cattle stations as a ringer, a grader driver, and a station hand. He was also active on the rodeo circuit and won a belt buckle in Darwin in '96. He had spent years in station country before settling in the Outback towns that later became central to his story. He had lived in Daly Waters. Then around in 2008, he moved to Larrimah. In 2010, he bought a disused service station there for $30,000 and lived in it. The coroner said that he had lived in Daly Waters. Then, around 2008, he moved to Larrimah. In 2010, he bought a disused service station there for around $30,000 and lived in it. The coroner said that when he first moved there, he had a black and white border collie named Rover. By 2017, the dog at his side was Kellie, the red Kelpie who became a part of the mystery too. Paddy was small build. The coroner said he was about 165 centimeters tall and weighed about 66 kilos. He had a history of heart disease and had stents inserted in 2006. Those details became important later because one early police idea was that he had suffered a medical event while walking out. He had been in a long relationship earlier in his life, but by the time he vanished, he was living alone. The coroner said he had once had a partner named Dorothy Rankine, and later another relationship with a few others between 2000 and 2003, but none after that. In Larrimah, his closest daily ties appeared to have been to the hotel, the town's small circle of residents, and his dog. To understand Paddy's case, you have to understand Larrimah. It was tiny. The coroner said there were 13 residents before Paddy disappeared. ABC later described it as about 12 people. It sat on one of Australia's big inland roads, but that did not make it connected in the usual way. It was still remote, still sparse, and still the kind of place where small personal battles did not disappear into the crowd because there was no crowd to hide them. The coroner said it had a Pink Panther theme, accommodation, and a zoo with more than 700 animals. Paddy worked there in the mornings, cleaning camp toilets, doing laundry, making up rooms, and tending to the garden. After lunch, he sat out front, drank beer, welcomed visitors, and kept Kellie by his chair. That matters because it means Paddy's life was public in a small town way. People knew where he would be in the morning. People knew where he would be in the afternoon. They knew what chair he would sit in. And because his life had that kind of routine, his absence stood out quickly. Larrimah was not just small, it was divided. The coroner's findings described a long-running feud between Paddy and Frances Hodgetts, who ran Fran's tea house across the road from Paddy's old service station. Fran had lived in Northern Territory for 50 years and in Larrimah for 45. She said she had first known Paddy on good terms, but things later broke down badly. Part of the problem, according to the coroner, was that Paddy tried to stop tourists from parking in front of his place while visiting her tea house. He also had a sign out front saying the hotel had best pies in town. Fran believed Paddy and her ex-husband interfered with her property by poisoning plants, cutting CCTV lines, or flooding her tea house. From 2010 until Paddy disappeared, Fran made 9 complaints to the police about him. The coroner listed them one by one. They included arguments over a red umbrella, claims of stolen books and memorabilia, complaints that Paddy was scaring away customers, accusations that he broke a hose fitting, claims that he turned her open sign to close, a trespass notice, allegations that he was stalking her with binoculars. These were not quiet tensions. They were repeated, documented, and old. And by the time Paddy vanished, the coroner found that the feud had been escalating. Another key name is Owen Lowry. ABC reported Lowry had been employed in September of 2017 as the live-in gardener for Fran Hodgetts. The coroner's findings say he had been briefed about tensions in the town and had his own verbal altercation with Paddy about Kellie several days before Paddy disappeared. That matters because Lowry did not step into a neutral situation. He entered an ongoing fight, and according to the inquest, he entered it near the end, only a few months before Paddy vanished. Fran and Owen both denied involvement in Paddy's disappearance. ABC reported in 2024 that they had always denied knowing what happened, and the director of public prosecutions later said there was not enough evidence to charge anyone. Routine matters in this case because the last day started as normal. The coroner said Paddy usually walked his dog each morning down the rubbish dump road and around a circle back home. Then he rode his quad bike to the hotel with Kellie on the back, worked until about midday, and then sat drinking beer before going home late in the afternoon. On the 16th of December 2017, he followed that normal routine. At about 9 a.m., he rode to the hotel and did his usual work. At 2:29 p.m., he withdrew $40 from the bar. The coroner said this was part of his routine. He gave the barman $20 and 4 cans of XXXX Gold, put 3 in the staff fridge, and later did the same with another 20 and 4 more cans. The detail about the beers matters because it shows the day was ordinary up to a point. There was no known big scene at the hotel, no known sudden argument there that sent him out into danger. The record instead shows a man doing what he usually did, in the same place he usually did it. That afternoon, a couple and their young daughter came from Catherine to Larrimah. The coroner said they had bought food, including barbecue chicken, before leaving Catherine, then stopped in Larrimah for lunch and later went to the hotel for a drink and to look at the animals. Their daughter patted Kellie. The mother took photos at the front of the hotel, and those photos showed Paddy sitting in his usual place. This family matters because they helped fix the last ordinary image of Paddy in time. He was at the hotel, he was in his chair, Kellie was there. It was still just another hot Outback afternoon. As light began to dim, Paddy told the hotel owner he would not be in the next day, but he would drop by at lunchtime to borrow the mower to do his lawn. Then he got into his red quad bike and told Kellie to get on in the back. The young girl's mother asked whether he wanted the leftover chicken for Kellie. He said yes, took it, and rode home. That is the last confirmed sighting. It is simple enough to picture clearly. A man leaving a pub a few hundred meters from his house, a dog riding with him, a bag of chicken in hand, and a plan to return the next day. That night around 10:30 p.m., there was a significant amount of rain. By the next morning, it had cleared. The weather matters because later, when the neighbors went through Paddy's place, one small thing told them something about timing. The rain gauge had not been emptied, and it had not rained Saturday night. That helped suggest he had not carried on normally after returning home. Paddy was not seen on Sunday. He was not seen on Monday either. For a man with such clear routine, that began to matter fast. Barry Sharp, the owner of the hotel, was one of the first people to become seriously concerned. The coroner said Barry had known Paddy for years and described him as a good-natured, happy-go-lucky man. Barry had his own chair opposite Paddy's chair at the front of the hotel, and the two men sat and talked most days. Barry remembered Paddy talking about ongoing arguments with the caretaker at Fran's place. When Paddy did not return to borrow the mower on Sunday, Barry thought he might simply have changed plans. But when he also missed regular drinks, Barry went to Paddy's place on Monday. He knocked on the door and called out. There was no answer. He found the back screen door unlocked and went inside. The house was neat and tidy, but Paddy was not there, and neither was Kellie. The back gate was open. Barry thought Paddy might be out walking the dog, so he drove along the dump road, but he did not find him. On Tuesday morning, another resident, Keith Rayner, and his wife went to Paddy's residence to look for him. What they saw later became central to the case. The coroner listed the details carefully. The rain gauge had not been emptied. The kitchen fan was on. Paddy's medication was still in the fridge. There was food in the containers on the table, as if he had been getting ready for a meal. There was food in the dog bowl in the bedroom, and a pedestal fan was on, pointing toward his bed. The bed did not look slept in. Both Paddy's usual cap and his cowboy hat were still there, even though the coroner said Paddy was bald and sensitive about the shape of his head. These details did not look like a planned trip. They looked like an interruption. Not because anyone saw an attack, but because the house showed a man who had come home, started settling in, and then did not finish the evening. The Rainers first thought Paddy might have had a medical episode while walking. They searched the nearby roads for over 3 hours, looking 20 meters either side, but they found nothing. After that, Barry Sharp called the police on December 19 at 4 p.m. Police arrived on December 20. They found the leftover chicken still in the microwave. They also found a baseball bat under Paddy's bed. They searched on foot with motorbikes for any sign of Paddy or Kellie. A search team was sent out from Darwin, about 500 kilometers away, to begin a formal search and rescue operation. At that stage, police still thought the most likely explanation was a medical event during a walk. A search reflected that idea. They used search teams, motorbikes, and a helicopter, covering an area of about 2 square kilometers, focused on where he might have walked, and 20 meters on either side of the roadways. Medical advice suggested he would probably not have survived in the environment for more than a few days, and the search was suspended on the 23rd of December. That theory makes sense when placed beside Paddy's heart history and the fact he was older. But the coroner later said what made it less likely was that Kellie vanished too. If Paddy had collapsed suddenly while walking, it would be unusual for the dog to disappear as completely as he did. By the 28th of December, police thinking had changed toward possible foul play. They conducted an evidence search over 2 days. The search ran 30 kilometers north and south, 35 kilometers along the western road, and included places like old World War II bunkers. A helicopter searched out 10 kilometers. Later, another evidence search was carried out from the 11th to the 14th of May of 2018. No relevant evidence of Paddy or Kellie was found. This is one of the hardest parts of the case. The search did not produce a body, but it also did not produce a simple sign that Paddy had just wandered off and died nearby. That left the case in a narrow, troubling place. Someone may have known something, someone may have moved something, but the land gave police almost nothing back. The items inside Paddy's home became some of the most important evidence in the whole story. The chicken in the microwave, the wallet on the table, the hat in its usual place, dog food in the bowl, his own meal out of the freezer. The coroner later treated these details as part of the likely final sequence. He said Paddy rode home, put the partly eaten chicken in the microwave, put his wallet on the table, his hat in his usual place, and put the dog in the food bowl, and got his own meal out of the freezer, then went outside with Kellie. That matters because it places the break in the story after he got home, not at the pub, not on the road between the pub and his house, but after the start of his evening routine. By this point, it is necessary to come back to Fran Hodgetts, because the feud with her became central point to the coroner's findings. Fran had run Fran's Tea House for decades. She had known Paddy for a long time. The coroner said their relationship had once been good, but deteriorated badly. She believed Paddy and her ex-husband were interfering with her business and her property. Paddy, for his part, had his own ways of annoying her, including a pie sign in front of his place and trying to control where tourists parked. One of the important late episodes of the feud came in August of 2017, a few months before Paddy vanished. ABC reported that Fran called police and said her plants had been poisoned. She blamed Paddy and her ex-husband, but had no proof because she said her CCTV lines were cut. One of the most talked about parts of the inquest was the secret listening device police installed in Owen and Laurie's residence. The coroner said the device was installed under a Supreme Court warrant issued on the 28th of December 2017, less than 2 weeks after Paddy vanished. The recordings included Laurie singing, muttering, and speaking to himself or his dog. When some of those recordings were played in the inquest, Laurie said it was not him and that he exercised his right to silence. The recordings were often hard to hear clearly, but the coroner included transcripts of several parts. One line dated 9th of January 2018 read, "Tell him what I've done with the hammer." Another on 14th of February included, "Well, they didn't find the hammer." ABC reported the detectives believed the recording suggested Laurie was singing about killing Paddy with a hammer. ABC also reported that Laurie denied the comments were his. No charge followed from these recordings alone. On the 7th of April 2022, Judge Greg Kavanaugh handed down his findings. He formally found the identity of the deceased was Patrick Joseph Moriarty, born 30 March 1947 in Limerick, Ireland. He found the date of death was September 16, 2017, and the place of death was Larrimah, Northern Territory. He found the cause of death could not be determined. He also said he believed offenses may have been committed in connection with the death and referred the matter under Section 35(3) of the Coroners Act. Most importantly for the story, he said, quote, "In my opinion, Paddy was killed in the context of and likely due to an ongoing feud he had with his nearest neighbors." He also said Paddy likely died on the evening of the 16th of December 2017. That finding matters because it shifted the case from suspicion to an official conclusion at the inquest level. But it still did not name a person in criminal court, and it did not produce charges by itself. One of the strangest parts of Paddy's case is that neither he nor Kellie have ever been found. ABC said in 2022 that no trace of either had been found since they disappeared in late 2017. That remained true in ABC's 2024 reporting as well. The disappearance of the dog remained important throughout the case because it made a simple medical event theory less convincing. Kellie matters in this case for another reason too. In many Outback disappearances, a dog might return, stay near a body, or appear elsewhere. But here, the dog vanished as completely as Paddy did. That left investigators with one more sign that the case might involve deliberate action after the disappearance. At some stage in the investigation, a reward of $250,000 was offered. The coroner noted that the reward brought in more information and more allegations. Also, ABC said the reward remained on offer as of 2024. Two people in particular gave information about how Paddy may have died, and those allegations were investigated according to the coroner. Rewards often do two things at once. They bring in new leads and they bring in new noise. In Paddy's case, they did not produce the one piece of evidence they needed to carry the matter to a charge. In June of 2024, ABC reported that the Northern Territory of Public Prosecutions had determined there was insufficient evidence to make out a charge against any person in relation to the disappearance of Paddy Moriarty. The statement came 2 years after the coroner had referred the case to the DPP. ABC had also reported that the Northern Territory Police said the investigation remains ongoing and encouraged the public to report any relevant information. This is where the case stands now in legal terms. There's a coronial finding that Paddy was likely killed. There is still no prosecution, and the police say the case remains open. This case has always had one feature that helps and hurts at the same time. The town is very small. On one hand, a town about 12 or 13 people gives police a short list of people who knew Paddy, saw him often, and understood the local grudges. On the other hand, if no one speaks clearly, if the physical evidence is thin, and if no body is found, a tiny suspect pool does not solve the case by itself. The house looked interrupted, the feud was real, the coroner drew a strong conclusion, the recordings were disturbing, but the case still needs proof that can hold up in court, and the DPP later said that proof was not there in a chargeable form. The people who knew Paddy gave the inquest a picture of a difficult but familiar man. One witness who had known him for decades said that if Paddy had a few beers in him, he had a bit of an Irish temper, though never physical. Barry Sharp called him a good-natured, happy-go-lucky man. Another witness said he was exceptionally good at his work at the hotel, and that Paddy once said he wanted to live to be 100. These details matter because they cut against a simple picture. Paddy could be annoying, he could be quarrelsome, he could get into old fights and keep them going, but the public record here does not describe him as a man making plans to vanish. It describes a man rooted in a place, routine, dog, pub, and feud. Patrick Joseph Moriarty came from Limerick, built a life in Australia, worked at cattle stations, rode the rodeo circuit, and spent his last years in a tiny outback town. By 2017, his life had narrowed into a small, regular path. The old service station he called home, the Pink Panther Hotel, the same chair, the same beers, the same dog, and the same bitter feud across the road. On the 16th of December 2017, he followed that routine one more time. He worked the pub, he sat out front, he took home leftover chicken for Kellie, he rode back to his place, he appears to have started getting ready for dinner, then went back outside, and that's where the story ends. A small town, a missing man, a missing dog, a house left mid-evening, a feud everyone knew about, and a final answer that has still not come.